Hey everyone, Sue from 1A Auto here, and we have a Toyota in the shop that has a misfire, and I pulled the code P0306. I say we just get right into it, but it's kind of dark here, and I gotta find a flashlight.
Here you go, Sue.
Hey, Eric the car guy. Looks like you just volunteered.
Looks like I did.
Let's get into it.
How you doing, Sue?
Good. How you doing, Eric?
Looks like you got some issues going on with this 4Runner.
Yeah, and I saved it just for you.
Oh, I feel so special.
Well, we run around a lot here and do things, but this one was a bit of a little head scratcher. When I looked at it, I found, pulled the code, Misfire P0306.
Cylinder 6 misfire? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we looked at it, and this is a typical 3.4 Toyota where you've got coils on one side and wires that run to the other side, so they shut off in a fire ignition back and forth.
So it's like a waste spark system.
Exactly. You know, I've noticed a new tune-up, fairly new tune-up on it. Looks like new wires. They're not factory. And I did notice a new coil over there.
Yeah, over here.
Yeah. So when you get something like this, what's the first thing you attack?
I want to keep it simple. Whenever possible. And I do look for things like newly installed parts. If there's an issue and there's newly installed parts, I kind of go there just to go over everything another mechanic has done, or maybe a DIY or something like that. Somebody might have done something inadvertently to cause the issue in an attempt to try to fix it. But one of the things I find so much with misfires is people often forget about the mechanical condition of the engine. Has it jumped time? Does it have compression? That kind of thing. And they'll replace all these parts and they'll still have a problem, and it ends up being a mechanical issue with the engine.
Correct.
So I want to make sure that I include that whenever I'm doing misfire diagnosis. But again, I go for the easiest thing first. I don't like to work hard if I don't have to. It looks like, you know, this ignition system and the way this was put together too, these wires and stuff, it's worth a second look.
Yeah, and then another story would tell is that someone did try to fix it and it still has a shake.
Right.
So on my side, I would be like, yeah, do I want to do it as quick as I can or as accurate as I can? When I pull each plug wire out, I'm going to pull each one out to see what the story tells, but I've gone that far. So I'm going to stick with a compression test first.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Because if you don't have compression, you don't have fire.
Nothing.
So there's nothing going on.
It's an air pump. If the air pump's not working, you can throw all the parts out you want.
And that's most overlooked, even techs, because, you know, we're trained to go as fast as we can.
Oh, I've been guilty myself. That's how I know.
Oh, no,
the reason I know is because I went down that path. It was a dead end. Don't do it.
Yeah, the worst thing, trust me, is fixing the car and it runs great and they go down the road and they come back a month later with the same misfire and you pull that plug out and what is it? It's loaded, it's clogged up, and you're like, I knew better, but I wasn't thinking that day.
You've got a cylinder that's starting to go bad, dumping oil in there and fouling plugs
Valve
and all that
seat,
stuff.
anything,
you never caught it, and you should have.
You should have, if you do it right.
Yes. A lot of times, though, I can tell the tale just by pulling a spark plug.
Yeah,
and taking a look at the electrode and see.
That's because he's got that old wizard beard.
That's it. And taking a look at the spark plug, to me, that's a window into the combustion chamber and what's happening. So if there's a lot of oil buildup or that brown gunky stuff on the outside, I can know that, well, maybe that cylinder's having an issue. And then I definitely want to do a compression test.
So one of the biggest misconceptions I've had people say to me is when they look at the spark plug, even other techs, they look at it. If they see the white deposit, they think it's coolant. I've seen a light green deposit. One of the guys came to me and said, look, it must be a head gasket. Look at the light green. And I looked at him and I said, I know that coolant is green, but fire likes to wipe out color. So if it's green, in a sense you think it's from the coolant, how about if it's the wrong octane? Have you ever run into that?
I haven't run into it, but that certainly makes sense.
You can tell by the engine. So
in my experience, if a head gasket goes, it cleans the heck out of everything. It steam cleans it. In fact, didn't like older vehicles have like a water injection system on some older cars?
Yeah, when they first came out.
When they first came out.
They used to clean it.
And it used to clean the inside of it. So it steam cleans the inside of it. In fact, I did a video a while back about taking a cup of water and dumping it in the intake while you're running it to run some steam down there and break some carbon loose.
For me, that was our very first in the 70s and 80s. That's how we did
it was my
injector cleaning.
My 79 Fairmont.
Which was not injectors. So prior to injector cleaning, we would dump water down. I remember working next to a caddy specialist, and that's what he was doing one day. I looked over my shoulder and I was like, this man is losing his mind. But he was pouring water down the 4-barrel. And so, of course, I inquired later on, what were you doing? And he told me. And I started doing that slowly in certain cars. When I got them, I would do that, and it did work. It would clean the valve seats.
And getting back to my point, though, if you've got a head gasket failure or there's coolant getting into a cylinder, my experience is it really cleans it up.
It sure does.
It doesn't really leave a residue. It's like, hey, this looks brand new. Why? You know?
For me, it was 100% octane. That's what I would find with people in their octane. I'd go, where are you going for gas? What are you doing for gas? And I actually had a Corvette come in one day, and he's like, it's pinging. I think I have an EGR problem. And I was like, no, you don't have an EGR on this car. You know, he was old school, and I was like, your new Corvette doesn't have that. So I asked him what octane he was using. He was like, gas doesn't matter. And I said, do me a favor. And I explained to him where to get gas, what octane to get. He did the high octane in a different clean gas, and he came back to me and said he increased power, the knock went away, and mileage. He got better mileage, believe it or not.
He knocked out the knocks.
He knocked out the knocks. So, you know, it's just, I always like to educate in the sense of everything. When they say it makes a smooth
It's
machine.
a system.
It's a system. And
It's a system.
You can't go short on something to expect the highest performance from it.
Absolutely. Well, why don't we get started on taking this apart and see if we can find the problem.
So I say let's do the wiring check, and as I can look closer here, I see the number 6 wire is kind of popped up, which is kind of common for aftermarket wires if you don't know 100% to make sure that boots down on that plastic sheathing.
Gotcha.
But I'm going to take the bar off that holds the intake off. It's always in the way, it's such a pain, but
Gotcha.
it serves a purpose. You take the air in box off, and we'll start doing this routing for the wires.
Let's do it.
It's a 12 millimeter socket on the top here. And the good news is I already got the wires and replacement coils and spark plugs if we need them from 1A. So they're sitting on the bench waiting to be installed.
You're like prepared and stuff.
Yeah.
You're prepared for class, Sue. Good job.
It's very easy. It's nice. It's convenient. I would say if we're going to check the routing, I wouldn't mind just changing them, to be honest with you.
You know, from the looks of them, I agree with you on that. They can be routed much better. You can do better. A lot better, I think.
It's funny how people never think about the routing of wires.
It's high voltage electricity. It'll escape where it wants to go. It wants the shortest route to
Shortest
ground.
route, yeah, just like water. And you know, back in the day, I always say that. I always say back in the day, sound like I'm 92, but
Well, I'm the one with the wizened beard.
well, they wouldn't let me wear mine. Anyways, we used to. That was one of the
Yay.
key things was wire routing when you didn't have direct coil.
Right.
You know how important it was to have one coil
Yeah,
firing all
because you've got
cylinders.
one coil that goes down to a distributor and then it goes everywhere else. And then they started doing this, which was the waste spark system. So it fires on the combustion stroke and on the exhaust stroke, and that helps eliminate some of the hydrocarbons for emissions, but it also makes it cheaper, I think. So you've got 3 coils instead of 6.
Correct.
So
But is it 100% efficient with the wires?
no, I don't think so. And you can't really control timing as closely as you could with a coil on every cylinder.
And
So
if anyone knows me, they know that I'm the biggest fan of Toyota, but I agree.
they're great vehicles, without a doubt.
All right, I'm clear.
I am too. Let's talk a bit about companion cylinders and why this whole system works, how you can have 3 ignition coils and 6 cylinders. So the way this is set up, you've got a V-shaped engine, and you can split this up into 2 parts. So you take the first 3 cylinders and then the last 3 cylinders and you line them up like this. And these cylinders are companion cylinders, or sometimes called sister cylinders. The way this works is this ignition coil fires both 1 and 4 at the same time, 2 and 5 at the same time, and 3 and 6 at the same time. It doesn't matter that you're firing the ignition on the exhaust cycle. You're actually burning additional hydrocarbons and whatever that may be in the exhaust. So it's 1 ignition coil for 2 parts. In this case, what we can do is we can look at the ignition coil, know what cylinder it's on, and we can say, okay, does this wire go to the correct cylinder, which is a quick check that we can do now, I guess. All right, I'll start in the back with this one. So this is number 5, which should be going to number 2 over on the other side. So
I'm going to grab the 2 wire and let's see if we meet up.
boop, boop. That's 2. Next one, I'm going to go for
3.
this 3 here.
6 for
Looks
me,
like, yeah, so that one would go over to 6 for you.
which was that boot that was kind of
Yeah,
partially
that one
out.
that wasn't all the way in there.
Yeah.
Did you say you had a cylinder, Misfire in cylinder 6?
Originally, when I brought it in, it did. Yeah.
I think we can assume the other one's going.
I hope so. You know, geez, I didn't know there's a 7-cylinder hidden somewhere, so we are pretty all set.
one is going to go to 4 on the other side, and if you've got 2 that are there, then I
Yeah.
think we're good.
You can save a lot of time that way.
Okay, so want to remove these and get a look at the plugs?
I would say where 6 was a misfire and 6 is the plug that wasn't booted all the way, that shares a 3. And it's kind of weird that I noticed that the coil is new on 5. So maybe they didn't have access to this or
And they thought that was
acknowledged.
6?
And they thought that was 3 for some godly reason. I don't know what.
Well, maybe they thought 1, 2, 3, or whatever.
Yeah, maybe.
So you want to pull out cylinder 3 and take a look?
We can look at that cylinder to see what's going on.
Now, what do you think? Looks like there's maybe a little bit of oil on that. It does look like this got some valve cover leaks and stuff.
Well, and the other thing that we need to talk about is, do you see the silicone paste? One of the biggest misconceptions of dielectric grease, basically, on spark plugs is that you put it on the tip. Well, really don't, because it actually reduces. It can cause more problems than good. So the porcelain is really where you want that dielectric grease, because all you want is to stop that boot from getting stuck on there. Because then you twist and twist, and then it rips. But you know what else I just noticed?
What's that?
Dude, I just went like this, and
It's not even clicking.
it doesn't click at all. There's nothing in there. There's a spring way in there, but that's it.
Yeah, there's nothing to connect to that
There's
top of the
nothing.
spark plug.
It doesn't even connect.
No. So, no.
There's nothing.
It's weird.
That is weird. Let's look at the base of it. What's it firing like? It's loaded. It's kind of black.
Dirty.
And nothing's in the cylinder that you can see. Can you see in there?
It looks dry. I'm not seeing fluid. It doesn't look wet.
Let's get a spark plug in that one coil. Let's see how it connects. I got 1 new coil and 1 new spark plug, because we're going to do a tune-up anyways.
Right.
But I want to give you the option.
Yeah, because I want to know if this spark plug might have something to do with it, or it's the coil. So I kind of want to just replace one thing at a time instead of 2. So why don't we put the old spark plug back in, and we'll try the new coil and see what
if the
happens.
misfire goes away, and if it does, then we're going to do a tune-up anyways.
Right.
We're not going to waste time right now with that. We're going to see what the main problem is.
I like this plan.
Yeah. How you feel about gapping that with those electrodes?
I have stayed away from gapping plugs.
Yeah.
Other than a quick check, because I've read that the platinum coating and palladium coating on the outside, the minute you go to gap it, you can chip that off of there.
Yes, you can't gap spark plugs. No, if they're iridium, platinum, all of them, you can't touch it, but you have to do a visual.
I do, and
Yeah.
what I do is I take it and I put it up against another plug. So I hook one going this way and I hook one going this
Just to see
way,
if
and
the
if
depth is-
they if they look the same, it's good.
It's like we were from another.
Cut from the cloth.
Cut from the cloth. I do the same thing.
And this is the other thing, especially in spark plug wells like this. I ran into an issue once where I installed brand new spark plugs in a car and it had a miss. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Well, I pulled the spark plugs out, and when I dropped the plug down in, it bent the electrode and
Yep.
shorted it out. So
Yep.
that was on me. So since then, I do very gentle down
Well,
inside
if
the
you
well.
have good sockets, that rubber boot in there is meant to hold it.
It is, but mine's been gone for I don't know how many years.
I'm just going to push on this wire, the 6 that was
Yeah,
like
it's
partially.
probably a good idea.
know.
Oh, look at that. It actually sits down on the plug.
You feel it make
I
contact?
feel it making contact with a plug.
So when I used to install these, I used to notice a lot of times, I mean, you can see, watch, the boot will come right out.
Yeah.
And the plastic does, but then I have free flow of that wire.
Right.
And I can push that wire back and forth.
Right.
So you want to, this is where I would use a silicone spray.
I was going to say silicone spray is what I put
And I
on
would-
there.
Dude, it's like
Careful.
I would spray right in there, and I would just push that down so I see that electrode right about this area.
Gotcha.
This one's up here. There we go. Another problem.
Well, should we address this one first
Yeah.
and then
Sure.
see if we still got
Let's see
issues?
if we have any issues. And I'm just gonna put this back together. Everything has silicone paste all over it. Man.
Well, the intention was there. Just, that's what we're here to do. We're here to help you avoid situations like this. And Sue has extensive experience with this kind of thing, and we're both coming to the same conclusion. So that should tell you something. Don't put all that gunk on spark plugs. It doesn't need to be there.
I'm not gonna say I haven't noticed 5,000 other little things that I, through the years, that I can see is going to go wrong or can contribute to this.
Right.
But I'm hoping for an easy fix,
Me too.
but there's a lot of other.
Yeah, I don't like to work hard if I don't have to.
I want to fix the major problem, and then I might go from there and say, now we're going to continue so we don't have another problem further down.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't think I have to tighten this up or anything as long as the tube's on
Where's
there.
the
Yeah, airflow's plugged
sensor?
in, and there's no leaks that I can tell.
Well, it won't
I mean, I
run.
can tighten it up if
Yeah,
you want.
if it doesn't want to run, it won't run. We'll know.
Okay,
But the misfire should be taken care of, hopefully.
should be.
Here we go. We're going to turn the fan on.
Still Still feels like it's got a little bit of one.
Seems like it's less of a misfire. It's a little bit lighter because it was so bad that you could feel it in the steering wheel.
Oh yeah. I mean, you could
Now
see it before.
yeah.
It smoothed out a lot.
So now, before I jump to conclusions, I'd like to run it for a little bit because you have a lot of carbon or missed fuel sitting up in that engine.
Right.
More than likely, with this kind of shake though, it's not going to be that. Unless we had a dumping fuel, like it was black smoke and all that, you would have this. But we never had the big, huge pile of smoke coming out. So we've got other issues.
It does have a stumble right off. It's still got something going on.
Yeah. I say we just do the full tune-up, new wires, spark plugs, and then we can check those other two coils for
Probably a good idea.
contact.
Probably a good idea.
Because if one's like that, maybe these people are like, what is this extra piece for? Over the shoulder.
Sounds like a plan. Let's get to
Let's
it.
do it. Oh. I didn't do that. I didn't.
Okay.
I literally like two little gentle pulls.
So
There we
I
go.
think, yeah, I think this is going to go a long way towards addressing this problem.
That's hysterical. I've got 2, 4, 6. You have 1, 3, 5.
That's it. 3 looks clean.
I was just gonna say to you, look how clean 3 is.
Yeah.
Aha.
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 You definitely want to take a look at 3 on that compression testing.
Yes.
Yep. I have seen this before, especially on V6 engines that are in this way. The front plugs get changed and the rear ones don't.
Oh yeah, front wheel drive cars.
Yes. Yeah.
I've seen it too many
Yeah.
times.
So
Awesome.
the plugs in the front may be new, but check them all. When I'm doing a compression test, to me it's like a sketch. It's just the general outline of what I'm looking at. If I really want to know detail as far as what's exactly leaking, I switch over to a leak down. The compression test is just like this cylinder bad in
Yeah.
my mind.
The most I'm going to do right now is I'm strongly going to suggest that we pull the EFI relay. So the
Yes.
injectors don't.
Yes.
That's, other than
And-
that, I want to do a compression test.
Yes.
And I don't want to.
Yeah, you don't want to fill the whole thing with fuel and
Correct.
basically lose compression as well as waste a bunch of fuel.
Yep.
Well, look at you. All right.
All right, I'm going to crank it.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes, I am.
Turn the fan on.
Go.
What we got?
It went up to about 190, 185.
Beautiful. We're going to do all 6 cylinders like this.
We had about 185, 190 on cylinder number 1. On cylinder 3, we had, it was a bit low, somewhere around 175, 180, around there, and then the back one was like around 185. So that's what I had on this side.
Cylinder 2, I had 185. Cylinder 4, I had 175. And cylinder 6, I had 185. So it's just like Eric. My middle cylinder over here was the weakest out of the 3. So we're bantering about carbon buildup, and that's what we're probably going to go for.
With those readings still, that doesn't indicate a major problem with the engine.
No, not at all.
It's got slightly low compression on 2 of the cylinders, but it's not.
It's enough.
Yeah, it's enough.
It's enough that this car should run. And
But yeah, it should run, but it shouldn't have the misfire that we're seeing. I don't think that would be a cause.
if you don't have accurate fuel pressure, you can get a misfire code. Shouldn't ever go that long that it causes a code, but we all have our places where we keep putting things to the back burner. And if you have a lack of power and a bit of an engine shake and that light comes on, it does say misfire, it can be caused by lack of fuel pressure. These fuel injectors need to see so much pressure to make that perfect shower. And when it's too low, it's just not going to fire right. And it's
going to dribble.
Yeah, and the computer's just going to say, well, we're not firing on that cylinder.
It's got to have enough fuel, it's got to have spark, and it's got to have good compression.
Yep.
And without those things, and timing. Timing is also important, mechanical timing as well as ignition timing. Any one of those things is missing, no bueno. All right, so I'm going to install the spark plugs, and I did that quick check of the gap that we talked about, but I'm not going to put any goo on them.
Oh, you're not?
I'm just going to install them. Nothing on the threads, nothing on the porcelain. I'm just going to very carefully insert them down into the spark plug wells. And
See, he's so used to having a tool that doesn't work correctly. That boot works on that socket, see?
you're right.
I'm just saying, you're so used to it.
I'm so used to having no spark plug boot.
Now, on my side, I have the actual spark plug boot. So I might put a little dielectric grease just on the porcelain. right here.
Yeah,
I'm not
and
gonna
that's
put it
what we
on the
talked
tip.
about.
Yeah.
Perfectly acceptable for that.
Not
But
gonna
no
put it on the
NICs on the
right
threads
here.
or any of that other
No.
kind of junk. If you are going to put anything on there, just something, a
On the
little bit of
porcelain. I'm
silicone
just
on
trying
the
to get
porcelain,
that
that's
boot
it.
to not
Right.
over time.
And that's all it is.
And now also with this, now these are TRQ, platinum, or iridium. Technically, it's not back when we used to do tune-ups every 30K and not do the wires, right? You would do the plugs and not the wires. That's really when that silicone dielectric grease came in, because you had to keep reusing the wires. And you didn't want them to dry out, and you didn't want to get stuck on the porcelain. Here, they're going another 120K for these spark plugs, easily. You know, they can do 100, 120.
Easily on
So,
those spark plugs, yeah.
So I'm going to opt out of not putting anything on them, and I'm just going to install them.
Copycat. Sue's copying me.
I'm just going to hand start them all. I always like to make sure they're started perfectly.
Same here.
All right, let's get the wires and install the TRQ wires.
Perfect. I'll get these old ones out of the way.
Let's see what the links are here.
This is the shortest one there. So that can go to your 2, I guess.
And
And
then
then
the
that's
longest.
the next longest.
6.
This is 6.
Perfect. See that scientific way we just did that?
Right? So sciencey.
Yes.
Now that's how it should seat, right?
Correct. I'm not going to wrap it around the fuel line either. You know. I'm going to.
Stop taking care in your work, Sue.
Now this is the one the original wire didn't even seat all the way down in.
Right. So I had a theory about how these electrodes got pushed up into the coils. Since these coils are fastened down to the valve cover, I wonder if they didn't have it seated properly, and then they ran the nut down, and it might have pushed it back up in.
Yeah, because it's just weird. I've never.
It is weird.
Or maybe they didn't tighten the spark plugs.
That too. But I would think that you'd know that. I've done that once, and it came shooting out.
Yeah, it does. You can tighten it. It still comes shooting out of a 454. The first ones that came out. But yeah, I don't know. It's just strange. That's just really an odd. I can honestly say that I've never seen that before.
Well, let's get the coils in and start it up and
We'll
see
go
if we
from there.
fixed it. Looks like we got our new coils. Why don't we just make them all the same? Use the TRQ ones.
Beautiful.
I find it easier to plug the wires in without mounting the coils first. So it would just be easier, I think, just for you to get that part sorted, and then I'll get it sorted over here, and then we'll put it all together.
I'm going to say it's safe for me to put this, partially bolt the bracket back up.
All right, I'm not going to tighten that down just yet. I'm all connected over here if you want to start it up.
Yep, I'm gonna turn the air on. Here we go. Fingers crossed. I love it when it works. Works. Nice and smooth.
That's fixed.
Good job.
So much smoother. We win. We have defeated the Toyota. Oh. Well, that's really
Awesome.
nice.
Yeah, it's really smooth, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So here's our codes. 306 is there.
Okay. So that was a code pulled earlier in the week or whatever. We had the PO 306.
Correct.
But now that we're going to clear the codes, there's another one?
Yep, there's, well, the 300, which means
Right, we
random.
got general.
And then we have 304, which is that wire that I found when I went to go pull it out.
Makes perfect sense.
So it could have been partially there, but maybe when it got warmer, it had more of a misfire, but not enough detected for us. So, you know, for it to trigger a code.
Right.
But it's in there now, so
Let's clear them out.
let's clear them, and that way we know it's all set and ready to go.
Call this thing fixed.
There you go.
Sweet.
Look at that.
Bye-bye check engine light.
No more lights.
No more lights.
At
Run
all,
smooth.
because Toyota likes to put on ABS,
Yeah.
the suspension, airbag, anything they can when that engine light goes on.
Yeah, it's not one light to rule them all. They must all participate.
Eric, thanks for your help.
Thanks for having me. I've learned quite a bit. It seems that we have the same approach to diagnosing misfire problems, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, and you know, we got to keep it basic.
Keep it basic, but I think more than anything is keeping in mind that the mechanical condition of the engine is imperative. It's important. Without it, nothing else works.
You can have all the bells and whistles, but if you get no compression and no pop, bang, boom.
Yep. And I'm glad we went through the trouble. We were doing the spark plugs anyway. We just went through, did that compression test, and we know that the engine's in good
Extra
shape.
5 minutes. If you have a customer and this is the situation, it just gives you a little peace of mind knowing that you did that extra step to know that they should have no problems in the future.
It's good to know what kind of shape your engine is in.
Yeah, because you don't want to be stuck on the side of the road.
Nope.
Just
Not in a
throwing parts
4Runner.
in.
That's embarrassing.
You never see that. Never.
Never.
Never. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And don't forget to ring that bell because then it turns on all your notifications and you won't miss any future videos. Thanks for watching. I had to. It was there, dude. I couldn't resist that.
Mine.
Oh, now we got Steve walking in the camera.
Steve, want a cameo?
Yeah.
It's Steve, the parts guy.
Yeah. He's gonna give us bad
What's
news.
up, Steve?